I'm Director of Web Communications over at the Food and Drug Administration. What I wanted to do today is just talk a little bit about the strategy that FDA is taking to do new media. And a lot of that stuff kicked off at the beginning of the year when we had our peanut product recall, which was one of our largest recalls that we had at the Food and Drug Administration. And our goal was to move beyond just our traditional digital approach and really hit a lot of the different spaces that were out there. So I want to talk a little bit about that and show you where we're headed. The reason why we were a little careful to get in there is that a lot of folks had this kind of perception of Web 2.0. And for those in the back of the room, you're probably going to see just the top of the slide, but trust me, it's funny. It's basically people out of work because they misused the different social networks. And there really was some of those perceptions out there. What we wanted to end up and where we did end up was after the peanut product recall, this is what folks were saying, and this is a good example of an online site that was saying federal health officials seem to be using every conceivable technology to reach our different audiences. Consumers affected by the recall, interested public, print and television media, state and local partners, and bloggers. And when I say every technology, I mean it. And they were talking about the combined FDA, CDC, and HHS approach to getting folks. And these are very positive statements, and we had a lot of very positive press and feedback from the public in our approach and getting what we wanted to get done. One of the first things that we let's just jump over to this slide. Did was set up a Twitter account. And the reason why it was low risk, high impact, something we could do very quickly. We bridged our RSS feeds on the recalls that were going out there, and even though, as Aaron mentioned, that you want to really use multiple channels, we had an RSS feed and a GovDelivery email subscription feed. Folks loved the fact that we were also offering on Twitter, and we literally had 3,000 folks sign up for it in the first handful of weeks. I think right now it's around 10,000, and it turned out to be a great platform for us pushing out information. One of the early lessons learned we had was that folks said, listen, let's call it the twitter.com/peanut recall. And we said, boy, if we do that, we're going to have 20 other ones coming out after this recall because we have so many. So we ended up pushing back and said, let's call it FDA recalls. That way when the next thing comes out, and sure enough, within a month or so, we had pistachio recall. And we really were going a little crazy with the nuts. But and then there was a Brussels sprouts one. And so having this feed set up, we didn't have to have multiple brands in multiple places for people to find information. And as the peanut one died down, this one, we wouldn't have lost all the users that had subscribed there, so it just continues to grow and serve as another channel for us to get information out. Another thing we did in partnership with CDC, and this is what, again, I call low risk, high impact, was create a widget, an online application people could basically grab the code to the right and pull it over and add it to their website or their blog. What was valuable here was that the widget not only allowed them to search for the 4,000 topics that had been recalled, but also had a search function. So a lot of high-level functionality on it. And it was the central place to go for our peanut recall information. And so with very little marketing promotion, within the first couple of months, we had 20 million people visiting the site looking for it and 20,000 sites that had picked it up and put it on their sites. So basically, folks were saying, look, we're going to give you a footprint on our site so that people can get to this critical information. It was, again, a real big winner for us. And we started seeing from local health departments to large health sites, people pushing this out to their audiences and making sure that they had access to this information. We have a bunch of other channels. YouTube, we use that not only for some of our recalls, but also for a lot of other health information. Have 114 videos on there right now, and again, becomes another place in the online marketplace that sends folks back to the FDA site. So what we're doing is being out there where people normally wouldn't look, or where people wouldn't normally look for us, and making sure we have a footprint and getting people back to our site to get to other critical information. Interesting, when we launched back in June was a transparency blog, or one of our first blogs at the agency. Our new leadership wanted to let folks know how FDA can be more transparent about its activities, its policies, how we do business. So we put that out there, stood it up pretty quick. We did go to the department. Andrew and crew were helpful in getting that up. And it has turned out to be pretty successful, and it is another way for us to really engage the public. Taking it another step, During the peanut recall, and something we did a year prior to that on our food safety plan, we started engaging bloggers out in the real world. Not just doing blogging, but actually realizing this is a ready-made audience, and one way to really help them tell our story and tell right information is that when we have a major event, how do we bring them together, let them hear from some of our experts, and then let them go out and blog on the information. And in both instances when we did this, the second time we did it with CDC as well, they provided an expert, we provided an expert, invited the bloggers, mommy bloggers, sports writers, regular folks interested in food safety issues to come listen to us, and then ask questions and answers. We started tracking some of the output, and it was folks either saying a lot of the new information that was really helpful for the public, who again would normally not come to the FDA to look at a press release, but also it had a lot of folks saying, isn't it great that FDA and CDC actually want to hear from us? They consider us to be an important spokespeople out there in the field, and it really had a positive impact. Leveraging partnerships, here are just a handful of ones that we didn't want to recreate the wheel during some of our recalls. Things are happening quick. We know that there's infrastructures already out there, so we have central messages that are clear. Let's get them out to our partners. A couple of examples here is the CDC Mobile. We had them push out key information pointing back to our searchable database and our widget. E-cards, another popular way of basically getting your peers, where people are starting to trust more than the health professional or the the media to basically get cleared messages, and allows them to put in their own message and send it out. And we did a handful of those in partnership with the CDC to really take advantage of the infrastructures. And that gets back to that earlier message saying these guys are everywhere. Well, we really were, because we were smart about it. Just wanted to end. I mean, there's a handful of other things we're doing. Just some early stuff. Being new to this since January, things that we've kind of learned. I added this quote because I think it really is accurate for FDA. The future has arrived, but it's just not evenly distributed yet. I think that at CDC it's pretty evenly distributed. HHS is right there. FDA, we're getting there, and there are a lot of other sub-agencies that really are still asking, what do we do? So, as far as some of the lessons learned, start somewhere, evolution versus revolution. I know some agencies are still working on this grand plan that they're going to launch, and they've been working on it for a couple of years now, and eventually they're going to get to it. By that time, the technology will change. What happened with us is we had a really good opportunity, and we jumped on it and took advantage of it. The peanut recall was big. We knew that we wanted to get information out there. The department offered to help us move the skids with our leadership. And so suddenly we got Twitter out the door, and then from there started bridging to widgets, and then leveraging a lot of other things that we wanted to do. But we started somewhere, and that has really helped us push the ball over the finish line. Another thing is just start listening. We heard earlier that you can learn a lot just by listening. Before we even started any of this stuff, we started looking at what people were saying about our drug products, our food products, on Wikipedia, different blogs that were out there. Not only did it help to inform some of the stuff we wanted to put on our website, but it started thinking about when do we want to be listening and when do we want to be engaging with these different networks. Start low risk, high impact. When you're starting, our folks were really looking at what exactly were we doing, and they were waiting to see if there was going to be an embarrassment, and a lot of the stuff they thought might be embarrassing didn't happen. When I first asked our chief of staff, we want to get involved in this, she gave me this look that you usually get when you're a kid and you ask for candy for the first time. And she was very suspicious, but I said, look, we're going to go low risk, high impact, and we're really going to go after things that are safe, but are really going to help us tell our story. And that turned out to be extremely well. That worked real well. And finally, don't recreate the wheel. We took advantage of a lot of partners that were out there. Folks didn't care that it was sitting on someone else's site. It was the FDA message. It was on the smart platforms with folks that have similar missions. So that helped a great deal in getting things out quick. Wisdom of crowds, you all know what that's about. It's just that not everybody listens to it. When we have our stuff out there, as we were getting real-time feedback and people were giving ideas and crowdsourcing, we'd use a lot of that stuff rapidly to fix what we were doing and improve what was happening. Or if we saw something that could have been an embarrassment, we use that to make a self-correction quickly. And finally, usability tests the goodness of your stuff. We need to do a lot more of that on our websites. When I did a brief stint with CDC, I realized we started evaluating some of the new media spaces that were out there, and realized things like MySpace and other widgets and stuff we were putting out there, folks didn't know all the features and functions, and were getting caught up on it. This is still your brand. You don't want to be embarrassed, and so you need to make sure that as you usability test your site, you're also usability testing your brands on the outside.